Today is the day 6 of the 30-day Turbocharge Your Career program. And today we are going to look at how do you develop winning mindset. Very specifically, how do you develop a resilient and growth-oriented mindset, which will go a long way in ensuring that your career is a smashing success. Let's dive in. Building a resilient and growth-oriented mindset is absolutely important in this hugely demanding world, which is becoming more and more volatile, more and more uncertain, more and more complex, and more ambiguous by the day, what is called as VUCA by different people. In this VUCA world, if you want to survive, if you want to thrive, then you need to adapt that growth-oriented and resilient mindset. Today, we are going to look at some of the heroes and heroines who are amidst us, who are building their empires even as we speak by living these principles. So I'm going to give you principles. I'm also going to give you illustrations and examples of real life people, business people, people among us who have built their empires by living these principles. Let's go and dive in. Number one, adapt a growth mentality. How do you do that? Let's look at the story of Reed Hastings, the CEO of Netflix, and look at how he built his empire. How did Reed Hastings change the fortunes around for Netflix? Netflix actually started as a DVD rental company, much similar to its competitor of that day, Blockbuster. Blockbuster was a much bigger company in the heydays of Blockbuster. In fact, Netflix at one point in time wanted to sell out. Reed Hastings made the proposal to Blockbuster. Blockbuster refused to buy them for $50 million, which was the proposed consideration. Netflix and Reed Hastings sat down, looked at what they needed to do. They converted themselves from a DVD rental business into a streaming business. They looked at the media consumption, and the media consumption was changing. With the advent of Wi-Fi, people were starting to stream, people were starting to consume media which was streamed. And Netflix thought it was a right time to start streaming rather than rent DVD. So they changed their business model. And there was a lot of learning involved in terms of changing this business model. But they adapted, and the growth mentality which they had, which Reed Hastings brought to the table, made all the difference. So what can you learn from this history of Netflix and how they beat Blockbuster? They ask themselves, what do we need to do differently? We have been doing this business in a particular fashion, and we are playing into the hands of the competitor. The competitor is a much bigger one. So what do I need to do differently is the first question they asked. The second question they asked was that how do I grow in spite of the big competition out there? 3, what are the skill gaps that we have, which we need to learn? And they were reinventing their own industry in the path of e-commerce. And they were trying to completely change the paradigm of DVD rental industry into a streaming industry. So there were a lot of skills to be learned. So you need to ask yourself, what skill gaps do I have today versus what skills which are required for tomorrow, and sit and measure that and learn that along the way. Ask yourself, what is it that you can do differently? Ask yourself, what is it that you need to do to grow tomorrow? Ask yourself, what are the skill sets you need to be there in this VUCA world of tomorrow? Then you will succeed. Principle number 2, embrace lifelong learning. Example, I can't think of a better example than Satya Nadella of Microsoft. He brought in a huge culture of learning, innovation, and continuous upgradation of people. From a hierarchy-driven, from a software pedigree-driven company, he changed that company into a cloud computing, cutting edge of technology, Azure company. And he did that by initiating a massive cultural shift. He also learned along the way from just being a techno person, engineer, when he joined Microsoft in 92, to earning his business degree and understanding the business side of issues so that he can position Microsoft in the right manner in terms of industry's evolution. I can't think of a better example than what we can learn from Satya Nadella. So what are the things that you can do from this real life story of Microsoft leader Satya Nadella. Simple, have a program of learning. Don't ever stop learning. And the learning is not just by getting degrees. Learning is not just by online courses. They are very important in today's world. So go all out for online accreditations, certifications, and so on and so forth, and acquire formal skills by all means. But learning doesn't stop there. Learning is also following blogs of great leaders. Learning is also listening to YouTube of great TED Talks. Learning is also signing up for newsletters of great industry people. All of this culminates in learning, which ensures that you are sharp, you are updated, and you are ahead of the curve. Principle number 3, develop emotional resilience. Very important. I can think of a better example than Arianna Huffington. Arianna Huffington, as you might know, collapsed in her early work days. She felt overworked, she felt exhausted and collapsed in her work. However, she did not let that exhaustion and overwork and collapsing from overwork stop her. She bounced back, developed that emotional resilience, and through meditation, self-care, and balancing her life and work, she bounced back, developed emotional resilience. And this emotional resilience ensured that she launched her own company called Thrive Global, which is advocating for mental and emotional care in workplaces today. So what can we learn from Arianna Huffington's life? Simple. Build in emotional resilience in your daily work routine. Build in self-care. Build in stress busters like meditation. It could be journaling, it could be meditation, it could be exercise, it could be yoga. But it is important to recognize that there are emotional events which can happen. There are failures, there are crises, and if you are part of, it could be personal life, it could be corporate life, and if you are part of any company, there could be ups and downs. And you need to be able to handle this emotionally very well. Otherwise, you will feel burnt out. Otherwise, you will feel your passion is completely running out. And it is important to build these routines so that you take care of your emotional well-being. And that is going to be a very, very important aspect of how you can handle in your workplace yourself very well so that you are better poised for growth in tomorrow. Principle number 4, change your perspective of what failure is. I can't think of a better example than Steve Jobs to illustrate this. Steve Jobs founded his company and he was ousted from his own company in 1985 by the person that he brought in, John Scully. He brought a person by name John Scully from Pepsi, but he was ousted from the board of that company that he founded. And imagine, I mean, it's your company and you are being ousted. What kind of a failure it could have been? But Steve Jobs did not let that ruin him. He went on to the next level, actually founded a company called Next, and then picked up a learnings from his next innings and Pixar innings to found Apple as we know it. So what can we learn from Steve Jobs' experience? It's this. Don't ever let failure ruin you. Don't ever let failure demolish you. Failure is but a stepping stone towards success. It shapes your perspective. It shapes your learnings. And to that extent, failure is very, very helpful tool. Unless you fail, unless you understand how it can hit you, unless you experiment and fail in a few areas, you may not be able to recognize what are the things that you should not do. As Thomas Alva Edison said, that, out of the 6,000 plus experiments that he did while inventing the light bulb, let's say 5,999 failed. And he said that I found 5,999 ways of how not to build that electric bulb. That's the way to think about failure. That's the way to think about shifting the perspective on failure. If you let failure saying that I have failed, then you have lost. If you think about failure as, okay, I've learned by doing this and I'm going to move on, then you are on your way to success. Set incremental growth goals for continuous growth. I can't think of a better example here than Mr. C.K. Ranganathan. I had the fortune of working with him in Kavin Care for 14 long years. He started very small. He started with one brand, Chick Shampoo. Then he set goals every year. And some of those years, I was part of that team which worked on those goals. And I was very up close watching the unfolding of events and how the company grew from very, very small setup to a very, very large company that it is today. So he would set goals in terms of, okay, here we are. This is this company size. These are the brands. These are the brand size. Where can we go next? And every year we took stock of what we had done last year, what worked, what did not work, and we would go for the next step. And that's how we progressed year after year after year. So the learning from this example is very simple. Set simple, actionable, achievable, biteable goals for yourself. There is a long-term goal. C.K. Ranganathan set himself a 5,200 crores as a long-term goal. And he would love to talk about that goal in every single meeting. But that's a long-term goal. To reach there, what are the things that we need to do today? What are the things that we need to do this year? That was a discussion and the reviews for that year. And that is how we also need to lead our personal life in terms of our career. Where is it that we want to reach? And what are the things that we need to do today so that it is all sinking in towards that path? Principle number 6, stay agile and embrace change. I can't think of a better example, though it's a negative example, than Kotak. Kotak was a name to hold when the normal photography, as I knew it, people, today's young generation may not know it even. The film-based photography existed. They were the masters. And you can't live without a Kotak film. And they had some 90% plus share in that market. And they are the ones who invented digital photography to start with. But they never embraced the change. Even when the digital photography was becoming mainstream, they thought it was a fad. They were not willing to let go of their current business, which is based on the film photography. They were not willing to embrace fully the trend, which was very clear to everybody in the world except those people. And the result? They completely been vanquished, completely gone out of the window. And the massive company, once it was a giant, had completely been demolished to pieces by the change in the technology. Very important lesson it gives for all of us. We need to be agile. Things change. Life changes. It's a VUCA world, as we have been talking about. In fact, technology of all things changes fastest, and we can't predict. We can see which way it is going. We can't predict it, whether it will be a fad, whether it will be a decided one. We can't know. So all you can do is to continuously upskill yourself by looking at the direction in which things are going. For that to happen, you need to do two things. One, you need to be mentally ready, quick and agile, so that you can spot in terms of what is happening. You should be open in terms of, yes, I want to change things. If you're rigid saying that I don't want to change, this is not going to affect me, then you are defeated even before you know it. But if you say that, yes, I'm going to keep my mind open, I'm going to learn as the world changes, then as the world changes, you would know as it changes and you'll be in a position to learn what needs to be learned. So be agile, be flexible, learn what you need to learn so that you can change continuously, adapt continuously so that you are ahead of the curve and therefore be ready to prosper in your career. Let's summarize what we have learned in this session. Growth mentality. Seek new challenges so that you can grow. Keep yourself open to learning from those new challenges. 2, lifelong learning. Set weekly time so that you can learn new topics, learn new skills. 3, develop emotional resilience. Meditate, do yoga, do exercises, do mindfulness so that you become emotionally resilient. 4, shift your perspective on failure. Failures are not going to demolish you. Failures are but stepping stones for success. 5, set incremental goals so that they are achievable, they're actionable, and they're biteable, which or in sync with your long-term goal. And the last one, stay agile, stay flexible so that you can move along with where the life and the VUCA world takes you. Take some time to reflect on what you've learned. Think about your own mindset. How open are you? How growth-oriented are you? How emotionally resilient are you? How are you setting your goals? Are they incremental goals? Are they too big for you so that you fail? Are you agile? Are you adaptive? And are you ready to change along with the world, which is changing almost all the time? I'm sure you liked the episode. Please like it. Please subscribe to the channel. See you in our next episode.